Welcome to another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line. I'm Frank Walker, Vice President of Governmental Affairs here at the Florida Chamber, and joining us today is Chairman Danny Burgess from Zephyr Hills. Welcome to the program, Chairman Burgess.
Thank you very much, Frank. It's great to be here.
Chairman Burgess is the chair of the House Insurance and Banking Committee, and this year that's been a busy committee. One of the issues that moved through that committee was workers' compensation reform. As you know, the Florida Chamber has a workers' compensation task force that formed closely after the Castellanos decision came down, and one of its guiding principles has been how do we ensure the injured worker is made whole as quickly as possible and returns to work as quickly as possible. So talk about the bill that you were responsible for drafting and shepherding through the process from the lens of what it does for the claimant, for the injured worker.
Absolutely, and that's obviously one of the most important questions to ask when you're looking at reforming the workers' compensation system. At the heart of the grand bargain are employers and employees, and the employees being the injured worker. So when we looked at this bill, when we looked at our comprehensive reforms, the injured worker was absolutely at the heart of those reforms. And the concern that we took in addressing some of the recent case law in Westfall and Jones. So probably the primary benefit for the injured worker that is being increased is the indemnity benefits, the temporary disability benefits, from 104 weeks to 260 weeks. And again, that's in response to the Westfall and Jones cases that also fell in line with Miles and the Castellanos case that recently brought us here, and why we're trying to address some of the workers' compensation issues.
I guess the other side of the equation that we've really been examining from the task force's perspective, and your bill speaks to very specifically, is how do we rein in claimant attorney behavior and as a result constrain unnecessary costs to the system, be it through attorney's fees or other measures. Speak about your bill when it comes to those important criteria.
So out of the 14.5% increase that businesses are being faced with in Florida, which are unsustainable and are really hurting our small business community, and especially back in my home too, I'm hearing a lot about this issue. And that's why I'm very proud to have been a part of this and helping take the lead in trying to address these concerns. You know, there's no question that the largest part of that increase was attorney involvement and attorney fees. And that's why our bill in the House, we are trying to address that as much as absolutely possible. The reality is we do have recent case law that came out that has constrained us a little bit in that regard. But what we're trying to do is strike the balance between constitutionality and the strongest reforms we can possibly provide for Florida's business community. And I think we've struck that balance with our current bill. The NCCI preliminary ratings just came out, and from our original bill to where we are today is even more significant for the reductions that will be provided to the business community and ultimately the consumers back home if this bill was to pass.
We applaud your efforts on that front. As you said, a 14.5% increase, that's equivalent to $1.5 billion cost on the backs of employers around the state, passed through to consumers, and that's just for the first year. I think without reform, we'd be in a situation where we could see an even higher rate increase over the coming year. So thank you for all your hard work on that part of the issue. Talk about the journey that this has been, because this is not an easy issue to crack open and solve. There's a reason that it has resulted in special sessions in the past. How did we get to where we are today versus the bill that was originally filed what seems like a lifetime ago in committee?
So, and that's a great question. There's no playbook for these reforms, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Every decade or so, the workers' compensation issue arises. Things were working great, in my opinion, for the past 14 or so years, from 2003 to the present. Case law and the Florida Supreme Court have kind of forced us to be in a position now where we have to address these new concerns that have arisen. And so I think that the lack of a playbook, the lack of consistent reforms, you know, every couple of years makes this as difficult of an issue to tackle within a regular session as it has historically become, which is why historically we have been in special sessions. Obviously my goal in all of this, and I think the House's goal in all of this, is to ensure that this is the most open, transparent take that we have ever attempted to make on the workers' compensation reform process. We had untold hours of panel discussions, and you're smiling because you had to sit through every single one of those, and you know what I'm talking about. We heard from every stakeholder in this process, and I'm proud of that. You know, we have made great strides to strengthen this bill from its original version to where we are today, and I think that we're in the right spot. I feel good about it. I'm proud of all the input of our members on insurance and banking, all the input from the business community, the injured workers, every stakeholder in this process. I just appreciate them taking so much time to make sure that we have the best bill that we can possibly have for those that are at the heart of the grand bargain, the employers and the employees.
Well, you always had an open door, and we certainly appreciate that. Felt like we had a great rapport in expressing some of the challenges that we're facing our members, and appreciate your willingness to talk through those and be open to policy ideas and suggestions. So the bill's up on Tuesday on the House floor, and it's likely that we'll see a final vote on Wednesday. So we'll be encouraging all of our members to be supportive of you and your colleagues' efforts, and then we're hopeful that that will be something that the Senate looks at and moves closer to over time. So we appreciate your help. We appreciate all your hard work on this. But I do think that's all the time we got for this discussion today. But thank you for being on the show. And to our members, thank you for joining us for another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line.